Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. In boxing, you find a way to win or you find a way to lose. Funny thing happened, right? I'm out fishing today with my sons. Man, it's hot out here. So while I'm fishing, talking to a couple guys out there, and a couple of them just have to be up on boxing. But they're not really diehard boxing fans. They just follow some of the big name fighters. And the fighters who they were familiar with, three names. And you could guess the three names. It's not the three names in this picture. It's Manny Pacquiao, Floyd Mayweather, and who? Canelo. So we're talking, and I told him there was a big fight this past weekend. Talked about Gervonta Davis, Rolly Romero. These guys were saying to me how they feel, boxing is dead, it's not the same. And I asked them, I said, well, why do you feel that way? I happen to disagree with you. And they said, well, right now these guys don't want to fight each other, and Pacquiao and Mayweather left the sport. And I told them, I said, you guys sound like really outdated, man. Like, you guys really... So I asked him, I said, tell me the name, outside of Pacquiao and Floyd, tell me the name of one current champion, any weight division. And them guys couldn't even tell me, even somebody who was a champion. They couldn't tell me any name. I said, you ever heard of Deontay Wilder? And he's not a current champion, but people should know his name. Tyson Fury, people should know his name. I said, man, what in the hell is wrong with these guys? So they start saying how Pacquiao was the best boxer ever. So, of course, with me, I'm listening to him, and I said, well, it depends on the criteria that we're measuring him against as far as how we're trying to determine greatness. And I said, well, if you're talking about him being a champion in 8 different weight divisions, well then, yeah, that I could understand if that's the criteria we're using to determine who's the best fighter ever. And then they went on to talk about, Canelo, but they couldn't really talk much about it. They didn't even realize Canelo was fighting at 175, that Canelo had fought at 175 before. So that conversation didn't go anywhere at all. But then when it comes to Mayweather, right? Oh my gosh. I don't understand why everybody thinks Floyd Mayweather is a track star. Floyd Mayweather is a runner. These guys went on and on about Floyd, and he didn't want to fight Pacquiao. And Floyd never wanted to fight the best. And all he did was run his fights. He had an extremely low output. And then I had to tighten him up. So I asked him, I said, had you ever seen Mayweather when he fought, Diego Corrales, Arturo Gatti? You ever see his first couple, like when he got his first championship against Hernandez? And I was like, so you haven't seen those fights? The Sean Bay Mitchell fight? You didn't see him in there with Emmanuel Augustus, where it was a competitive fight. Chuck Corley, where he got clipped, and how he came back. Like, you didn't see those fights? And of course, they're out of the league now. And I understood that. And I wasn't trying to play stump the dummy, but it was just annoying me that these guys were representative of a lot of people who say they follow boxing, but they really don't. They're so quick to label the true master boxer as a runner. So my thing is, if the person is hitting you, is beating your butt, right? And you can't catch up to them, now you want to say they're running? And that's hilarious. So some people think that boxing, even at this day, people really think that with some boxers or boxing Two guys should just stand in front of him like rock'em sock'em robots and just pulverize each other. People, that's not boxing. That is not boxing. Okay? Now, if you're watching this video, you know what boxing is about. I'm going to go ahead and make that assumption. It's about hitting and hit and not get hit. It's about your leg movement. It's about, lateral movement. It's about your IQ, ring generalship. It's about offense, about turning defense into offense, offense into how to use your offense as defense. It's a lot. Too much for me to get into in this video. But it's not just about standing in front of somebody and being tough. That's not boxing. Now, is that entertaining? Yeah, it is nice to see two guys just kind of hold their ground and let shots go. But you know what I find? Now, this is my opinion, right? I like to see two guys just kind of Arturo Gatti, Mickey Ward it, and just let leather fly. Or Ika Ibuchi and David Tua. Two monsters hold their ground and let leather fly. It's really fun watching that. But what's more entertaining, man, for me, is to watch a guy, since they were talking about Floyd, like how Floyd Mayweather, his abilities, even up till he retired, but especially the Pretty Boy Floyd era, where he would stand in the pocket in that damn shoulder roll guard and not give up any ground. And the opponent is unloading everything he has. And Floyd just catching, rolling, deflecting with his shoulder, countering, and just destroying that guy. And not even moving an inch. All with defense, just moving just enough to get out of the way of shots. And to watch him do that is absolutely amazing. Now, for those of you out there who are saying, okay, sounds interesting. I can't recall Floyd ever doing that. Well, I'll say, man, you haven't followed him. So I'll give you 2 fights to go look at. It's actually 3. I already mentioned them. But there's a lot. But the 3 where it just really jumps out at me is a Diego Corrales, Arturo Gatti, and the Genaro Hernandez fight. Watch that Genaro Hernandez fight more than the other 2. You want to see something amazing? Watch what Floyd was doing in that fight. Absolutely amazing. So they're so quick to label people as these boxers as, runners. And some people don't appreciate it because I think they don't understand the skill level and what's happening in the ring. Now, there may be a fight where I'm trying to think any boxer I've ever seen just like run in the ring. Well, Erislandy Lara did a whole lot of moving against Canelo. And he boxed well, but to me, I understand somebody making an argument about Lara running that fight. I could see the argument. I wouldn't even try to come to Lara's defense in that fight. Because to me, Lara lost his right to complain about losing. And I think I would lose my right to, in regards to trying to hold my position saying Lara didn't run. I mean, the damn man, to me, he ran. De La Hoya with Felix Tito Trinidad in those last couple rounds, that wasn't really boxing, that was running. He was, no kidding, just running away from Tito, thinking he had the fight in the bag. Now, to me, De La Hoya should have run that fight because he outboxed Tito Trinidad. But that, what he did, he ran. That wasn't really him boxing. Now, boxing is what he did those first 8 to 10 rounds, 8 to 9 rounds. What De La Hoya did the first 8 to 9 rounds against Tito Trinidad, that was boxing. The last few rounds, that was more running. That was stupid. And he regrets it to this day. But to come down and say Floyd Mayweather ran, that man did not run. Okay? Now, another person who people talk about running is Rigondeaux. Kind of hard for me to hold position and defend Rigondeaux saying he's not a guy who will run in the ring. Because Rigondeaux Rigondeaux will haul ass in the ring. And I just don't understand what the hell's gotten into him the last few fights. Still has power, still has the IQ. He's an amazing boxer, but them last couple of fights he was doing a little bit too much running. And yeah, he's light on his feet. His footwork is outstanding, but there's more running than boxing, okay? So I wouldn't try to come to Rigondeaux's defense. Really wouldn't try to come to Lara's defense. Now, not the Lara who fought this past weekend against O'Sullivan, but Lara doesn't have the legs anymore. So Lara has to stand there and hold his ground and did some amazing boxing against a low-threat opponent. O'Sullivan's better days are behind him. I like O'Sullivan. Tough, but his better days are behind him, and so are Lara. So that was a perfect matchmaking to make sure Lara still looked good and could fight at the highest level. So the other person who all of a sudden now people are saying is a runner. I mean, you gotta make up your mind on what it's gonna be as far as giving somebody their accolades, endorsing them for being great, or just say that they're just whack, they're sorry, they're horrible boxers. But you can't be so back and forth, man. Gervonta Davis, how is he a runner? So that's the next thing that got my attention. All of a sudden, people are calling Gervonta Tank Davis a runner? Come on, talking about, yeah, he learned from the best making jokes. Oh, Gervonta learned from the best. He learned from Floyd how to run in fights. Tank doesn't want to win. Tank doesn't want to knock anyone out. He just wants to run. And, he got lucky to knock Rolly out. That was all luck. Rolly ran into that shot. Tank was running. Tank hit him. It was a hit and run. And I'm like, man, stop it. It wasn't no hit and run or a run and hit. Okay? Well, Tank is a highly skilled boxer. And what you saw this weekend, Tank was down. Tank was, in my opinion, Tank was losing that fight. And he wasn't getting beat down. It was just more activity from Rolly. But Tank had a few spots where he let that leather fly, and you could tell Rolly didn't like it. And there were some spots where Rolly let the leather fly, and Tank didn't like it. But in a situation like this, a lot of people are really admiring Rolly Romero for standing there and trying to fight, and trying to bring the fight to Tank. But I think the reason, it's two reasons, right? One, we're all shocked. Nobody expected Rolly to look that good. Rolly looked really good in that fight. Okay? So I think that's why he's getting so many endorsements. The second thing is, what people are appreciating him is because he didn't run. He didn't really try to box and dance. He was coming straight at Tank. And as a result, he gave them entertainment because Tank countered him and knocked him out. So now, that's what people wanted to see, but at Rolly's expense. And I just don't think that's why we should appreciate a guy like Rolly, and why we should say somebody is a boxer and put him in a category as being a good boxer because he just wants to rush in and take your head off. And the other guy who used a lot of intelligence and boxed and moved with a purpose, call them a runner. I just think that's foul, man. You want to call Floyd Mayweather a runner? I wholeheartedly disagree. Nothing about Floyd has been a damn runner. Okay? When it comes to Rigondeaux, you want to call him a runner? It kind of is what it is. When it comes to what's his name? Look who joining us. When it comes to Rigondeaux is you want to call him a runner? Well, then he's a runner, okay? But Lara, you want to call him a runner? But then he's a runner. But when you talk about Tank Davis, nowhere in the world you can call Tank Davis a runner. Tank Davis is not a runner. He is not a runner. Tank Davis is a fighter. And he always fights in his fights with a lot of intelligence. against what's his name, Isaac Pitbull Cruz. Tank Davis, what he did was the same thing. He boxed intelligently. Everything he did was with a purpose. His back was never to his opponent. Now Rigondeaux, we have seen him put his back to his opponent and run. Lara, we've seen him try to get out of the way get out of harm's way. And then with Floyd, really don't see that. Really didn't see that. But people have to give these guys some credit, man. And I just don't think, I think there'll always be the argument of the master boxer versus the brawler. Who's more entertaining? That's okay. Because there's some times where I like to see two guys just get in there and just go at it. But when you see the skill level and a guy who's boxing with intelligence, that to me is just so amazing. And maybe that's because I kind of understand, and I think a lot of you who appreciate that too, you can understand and you can see what everything that's calculated, everything that's happening, how they're setting traps, how they're setting those guys up. So when you can recognize that, the fight becomes, it's more entertaining for you. But if you don't recognize what's going on, you're just watching two guys where you feel are just standing there moving around the ring, I could see how you could consider it boring. It's just like in the MMA world. If you don't understand grappling, if you don't understand wrestling, if you don't understand jiu-jitsu, and you see these guys fall to the ground and grabbing at each other's feet or trying to grab someone's arm or trying to get on top of them, or sometimes some of those positions look crazy, right? Guys on top of the other guy's back. The position looks a little bit weird to the untrained eye. And the whole time this guy is doing certain things to force his opponent into a position. So I think, and so if you don't understand that, you could think that it's all boring or that there's just no skill. But to the trained eye, they can sit there and explain to the uneducated person exactly what's happening. It'll make you see that fight totally different. You can't do that with everybody, but someone who's willing to listen and learn, when they start watching those MMA fights, they'll start seeing it differently. And I think the same can be said for a person who maybe doesn't really understand boxing, but once they start to really understand boxing and setting traps and ring IQ and ring generalship, then they'll start to see the fights as something other, especially with a boxer, is other than a runner, and really start to see them and appreciate their skill set. So I'm going to go ahead and leave you guys with that, man. The master boxer, will it ever be appreciated? And you know what? I don't know. But I think some people just need to get educated. And others, no matter how educated you are. There are times where I like to watch two guys just go at it. I mean, just try to tear each other's heads off. Very entertaining to watch it. But at the same time, when you see guys like Mayweather and even Rigondeaux, I can't remember the fight, but he was in a fight where he was losing every round. And he came back and drilled that guy with that left hand, man, and got him out of there. But he was losing the fight. But he the whole time, I guess you could say he was setting the guy up and he was waiting for his opportunities. Because master boxers have a lot of patience and they have a high IQ. And they don't worry about the scorecards necessarily. Kind of like with a puncher. They're not really worried about the scorecards. Those guys are just waiting for an opportunity. And the same can be said for those master boxers. So I'm going to leave you guys with... Excuse me. Daddy sneeze, huh? But I'm going to leave you guys with that, man. That being said, like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Shout out to all the veterans. I appreciate your support. I'm going to go ahead, little man wants some attention. I'm going to chill out with my little man. And again, man, master boxers, got to appreciate them. When they're in the ring and boxing, like Tank Davis this past weekend, he wasn't running, he was boxing. He was showing ring generalship. And when the opportunity presented itself, he let the big left hand go. And it was just to get Rolly off him, but Rolly ran into it. So I just think it's unfair to label Tank as a runner. He's not a runner. The man's a boxer, and he can bang when he wants to. So you can't be both ways. He's a runner, or no, he's a great boxer, great fighter. The man's just great at what he does. We need to give him his credit. That being said, y'all keep safe. Chuko say, I'm in the breeze.
I'm in the breeze.